Hi, I'm Rebecca.
I'm Jess.
And I'm Dianna Elliot Graham.
And we're
Tipsy.
Yes.
Too many books on my TBR. Too many books on my TBR. Yeah. This podcast is like a book club for the antisocial. We make a drink inspired by the book we read and talk crap about life and fictional characters. We really hope you listen and drink along.
Side effects of listening to this podcast may include reading vivaciously, extreme bouts of laughter, tipsiness from craft cocktails, talking shit about life and fictional characters. Listen at your own risk.
Just a warning, this podcast is explicit. We are all over 21 and there are spoilers.
We warned ya.
Hi, Tipsy book readers. Today we have a special guest on our podcast and we are so excited. Today we have Dianna Elliot Graham and she is the author of this lovely book, When We Were.
Which I love the cover, by the way. It's so pretty.
Oh, thank you. That was a whole ordeal. That's actually the second cover. There was one before it.
With like Polaroids?
Yeah, with the Polaroid. The Polaroid that's now in the back. But so much of this book happened so quickly the first time that getting out a cover and it was kind of just a throw everything together and see what sticks. And so about earlier this year, so in 2023, I republished it with an updated cover, one that had a little bit more intention and thought in terms of Easter egging on the front, and that's what you've got.
Yes, I love it. The more I look at it, the more like the little burritos. I just saw that for the first time.
Let's get burritos, Miami.
Yeah.
It's so cute. Yeah, I love it. And I definitely still need to do a reread and I'm going to like go back and look at all of these little as I go.
I mean, my favorite Easter egg on that cover is at the bottom. It's where it says like a novel versus a love story, and it's kind of meant to indicate, particularly in each of their pens, how they perceived this story in many ways.
Red and the blue.
Genius.
I did not realize that.
No, don't worry. I don't think many people do, right? And so much of it wasn't done for people to kind of like check off and know all of it, but just kind of nods for myself to this story. So
yeah,
that's my favorite.
Incredible.
That's my favorite one of all.
I love that.
Oh.
As like Taylor Swift girlies and Marvel girlies, we love Easter eggs.
Same. Very
Big
much.
Big fan. We're always trying to figure out how to like put Easter eggs in things that like we do as leading up to stuff, but
it's hard.
It's hard. We're
I'm just like,
is this too obvious? And then it's so subtle that no one notices at all, and you're just like, okay.
I get it. I get a little bit of both. So I definitely play the Easter egg game. If you've seen any of my Instagram, you'll see that like some of the comments on posts are usually like, what does this mean? And sometimes it means stuff. But what's funny is every so often I just post a meme and people are like, but what does it mean? And I'm like, nothing.
Literally nothing.
Literally just a meme.
Nothing.
I LOL. That's it.
Yeah.
Incredible. Okay, so you let us know that you love champagne, so we are drinking a French 75 tonight.
I'm just drinking champagne.
Oh, I love that. Cheers.
Cheers.
Virtual cheers.
I don't know. This is so good.
I'm not going to lie. I think at this point, it's pretty much just champagne because I made a French 75. And then as I sip it down, I'm just like topping it off with champagne.
Sure.
Yeah. Just slowly adding and more and more.
I mean, that's fine.
Oh, man. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with a glass of champagne on a Wednesday night.
Exactly.
I mean, sometimes we record these things at like 10 a.m. So
on like a Monday.
Yeah.
Even better. No, champagne is really special. Like as I noted to you guys, like we drink it a lot in this house. My husband's very sweet about it, and he started this thing a long time ago where basically, regardless of the shitty day you have, like pick a thing and like pop a bottle of champagne to get through it. So like, did you finish your day? Did you get through all your meetings? Like you still deserve to kind of celebrate it. And so that's why it's like a much more acceptable anytime drink. You pick a random thing to celebrate. So.
Oh,
I love that. Honestly, that's such a good outlook because,
thank you.
You know, there's always one thing you can pinpoint as a high of the day, right? And like you said,
cleaning
you made it
cleaning
through the
out
day.
your inbox, like cleaning your email inbox. That's a win.
I still need to do that.
I haven't done it. That's
Executive
not my
functioning
win.
skills, my friends.
Yeah.
Like, if I check one thing off my to-do list, I'm calling it a win.
You should. Yeah.
Totally. That's
I
me
love
every
that.
day.
I'm going to drink more champagne now.
Oh, always. My intention this year was to do the little mini bottles of champagnes and write like specific goals on them to
That's
pop.
really cute.
Yeah, and I never did it because
Okay,
ADHD, but
Yeah.
Do it now.
you're
Yeah,
so
we
right.
still can.
Like, why
we
would
should
you
do like
just? It's by the end of the year. Just do it by the end of the year. Like, do it now.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. I need to do it.
absolutely. Let's do it. Let's do it for the podcast. Like when we hit a certain amount of followers or something, we'll like pop a bottle.
That's fun. I like that.
That is fun.
So speaking of like positive things and stuff like that, we do this little segment that's called What Keeps You Up and What Keeps You Home.
Yeah.
So we have ours. We can go first, and then if you want to join in, if you don't, that's totally fine. But do you want me to go first?
Go for it.
So what kept me up is the Bone Witch series. This series, if you've never heard of it, it's like young adult fantasy, and I've seen it like pop up every once in a while, and I don't know, I've moved quite on into adult fantasy, so it's been a while since I've like gone into the young adult, but it was free, so I listened to the first one and then they hooked me, of course, and now I'm on book 3, and I can't stop thinking about it. It's so good. It's magic, it's fantasy, there's dragons, there's just like everything you want from a fantasy in there. Enemies to lovers, like it's fantastic.
I love.
That sounds great.
Yeah, and I can't remember the author's name because I didn't write it down, but kudos. And then what kept me home? This fucking hurricane. I mean,
Yes.
kept me home. That's fun. I mean, actually, I see the sun right now. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, because you're in like middle Florida, right?
Mhm.
You're like mid Florida. I'm South Florida. So
Yeah.
we had just like normal summer rain. We had no real. But is this storm coming back around? That might keep me up. Is it doing like a loop?
I saw it possibly could,
Right?
because I saw the joke of being like, why would you want to come back to Florida? Like,
Good joke. Good joke.
solid.
Solid joke.
LOL, please leave.
Yeah, because we're mostly on the East Coast. Like a little, she's further inland. But so then it would just like hit us like right directly from that side. But you know what?
No, thank you. But welcome to Florida, right?
Hard pass. Yeah.
Hard pass.
Yeah. All right. What kept me up? My hot water heater went out this week, and cold showers are not refreshing. Like, I know they say they're good for your brain and they wake you up. 0 out of 10. I never want to take a cold shower again. I actually today was like, Rebecca, I'm taking a hot shower at your house because I just need a hot shower in my life.
You're always welcome to take hot shower at my house.
Thanks. So that kept me up. And so we can get more into this later, but also there's a new theory that I've unlocked in my brain about this book, and it's kind of keeping me up.
Ooh,
so
this is the first time I'm hearing this.
Once we
I'm
dive
so
in,
excited.
we can kind of talk about this and see if it's like canon or just like my brain. And then what kept me home? Literally a hurricane.
Wait, you're not going to tell us what the theory is? You're going to make us
I
wait?
know.
Okay, I guess I'll talk about
Yes,
it. So,
dive in.
Okay, so I finally read the Reed's perspective of them meeting,
good.
and so many times he talks about like how familiar she is to him, even though that they've like never actually met, and then talking about the ending of the book, how obviously in Amanda's book they get their happy ending, and to me it's very like parallel universe. Like, are they familiar to each other because in a parallel universe they actually like did get their happy ending, or is it just like a coincidence? Like, why is she so familiar to him? Because he mentions that a lot.
I love that you've turned this into sci-fi. Like, I love that you're like, romance. This is a Marvel situation.
Always.
This is-
I love that.
So that's where my head went.
I can honestly tell you, of all the things I thought that were about to come out of your mouth, that is not it. Like, I don't know what I was expecting. It was not that.
I don't know what I was expecting either, but I like it. What Marvel movie did you just watch that made you think that?
So, like, I don't know, but, like, she's so familiar to him. Like, he already knows her. Maybe he does. In another universe.
I love it.
So, it's keeping me up. And then I'm reading right now A Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. And it's, like, super cozy witch story. I am, like, a Halloween fanatic. So,
Great.
like, Halloween starts now. It
Yeah.
started, like, a month ago. So I'm into all of the witchy books and everything. And then also I finally finished The Housemaid's Secret.
Did you read
Frida McFadden.
I have not. It's
The
the house. No, it's on the list.
Okay.
But maybe I'll bump it up now.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. So we read
Okay.
the one on the podcast, and I just finished the second one because Rebecca was like, finish the second one. So
Yeah. Okay. I'm like, we're terribly in a book slump in this house right now. So we're trying to figure out what to do next. I think we're similar to, you're also starting Divine Rivals, right? Or you've started Divine
Yes.
Rivals. I think that's what I'm going to do.
do it. Read along with us.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. I think that's probably going to be the next book for me
Sweet.
to read.
I'm excited. I just got my copy literally today, which I was surprised considering like everything else got canceled from the weather
Yeah.
of coming in. I was like, all right. But I did get that and it's so beautiful. The inside has like a special little golden typewriter
Yeah, like
and
the embossed.
Mm.
Super cute.
it's really cute. So I'm excited. It looks like it's going to be a book that I will probably obsess with for the next few months. So
Yeah. New personality. What?
That's the whole point, right?
Yeah. We were just in the kitchen cooking our French onion soup, and she's like, my book just got here. And we like ran out, but the Amazon guy was still there. And we're like, abort
That's
mission. We
uncomfortable.
cannot be seen.
Yeah, that's I often wonder, like, do they know my house? Like, my phone is now doing this thing where it's like, hey, there's stuff on Amazon you're gonna want to look at. Like, it literally like pops up in the morning where it's like, search these great things, because it just
like,
like
stop
knows I
yelling at
haven't
me.
bought anything today. French onion soup is my whole personality. Like, that is, if there were like things that you'd be like, what describes her? That is one of them. Always.
incredible.
If it is on a menu, I will order it. It does not
So-
matter. It could be 95 degrees. I'm ordering it.
Oh, yeah.
That's literally today.
100%.
So I found out I was like severely allergic to dairy like 3 or 4 years ago. Very traumatic because I love dairy.
Sure.
So as soon as that happened, I was like, absolutely not. I'm finding a recipe for French onion soup that doesn't have dairy in it.
Yeah.
And I've like perfected it. And the minute it started raining outside, I texted her and I was like,
Soup?
soup season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get ready.
Absolutely. I think I'm going to do a chili tonight, which is in the same like vein of things in
Absolutely.
bowls. The things in
Mhm.
bowls maybe is more the identifier for me. Things with spoons
fair.
and bowls.
Like stew.
Spoons and bowls.
Yeah.
I love it.
Spoons and bowls.
We are planning on having like a little soup party this year with our family friends. And so everyone's going to make their own like specialty soup and bring it to the party. And then we all get to try different soups.
That's like the best thing I've ever heard.
You should totally come.
Absolutely. Come to our soup party.
I've traveled for worse reasons, and you're not that far. Like, I could get to you in a car.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, absolutely. I got these new bowls. They're little pumpkins, and the top is like the top of a pumpkin, and they're little soup bowls, and it's literally the cutest thing.
I love it. I love it so much.
After
And-
French onion soup, what would be your like second pick for
Oh.
soups?
First of all, I have to tell you, this is the best. This is the best. This is my favorite thing. I could talk about this for another hour.
Okay, me too.
I like. It's absolutely lentil. Lentil soup is also great. So you found out you were severely allergic to dairy. I had like terrible GI issues a few years ago, and like I had to go on such a restrictive diet. It was like the FODMAP diet. So if you've ever done that, it's an exclusion diet. You get rid of everything to see like what triggers your system.
Yeah.
And like that means no onions, no legumes, like none of the things that I just love in general. And it knocked out both French onion and lentil for like a few months for me. But lentil soup is like my favorite soup. And there's a soup that like I accidentally stumbled upon in the grocery store, and I've made it now. Every time I make it, I'm like, this soup is magic. It feels like magic. It is like, have you ever seen those like soup packets that come in like plastic? They're like tubes, and they just have like beans and random stuff in them. So I get like, there's like a minestrone one, there's a lentil one, and then I get a thing of like Trader Joe's lentils and like a chicken stock, and you just kind of like put all that together and throw in some like literally anything you have, any vegetable you have, and it's the most magical soup. It never disappoints.
Wow.
And it's like
love
just a little
soup.
different every time, and you can keep all the stuff in your
Mm,
house.
I love that. That's my
Thank you.
favorite thing about chili is I don't have a written recipe. It's
Yeah.
just like from the gut, it's like a gut
It is
soup.
from the gut. Yeah.
Okay, well, whatever your approximate recipe for that lentil soup is, please send it to me because I'm trying to eat more lentils.
Truly all the stuff I just said. Like, it is just exactly how I will send it to you
Okay,
again, but
fair
it was
enough.
just as I said it. Like the
Perfect.
Fair
random
enough.
soup packets.
That sounds
So,
so good.
what kept you up and what kept you
Oh, yeah.
home?
Oh, sorry. I was like, let's talk about soup this whole time.
Tangent. This is soup podcast
Soup is gonna
now.
keep me up. What kept me up? It's probably book 2. Like, it's probably doing that. That's keeping me up. It's keeping several people up, I think. And what kept me home? You know, like severe agoraphobia, social anxiety. I like pick one. I don't know. I work remotely. I live very close to friends of mine, so like my cluster is very much here, and so I don't have to leave very often now.
Love that.
Thank
Love
you.
that for you.
I love that for you, honestly.
Thank you.
That's what I need in my life, a work from home job, and I'll just park myself in your office.
Okay.
Here,
Yeah.
at your house.
Oh.
I'll bring my husband, I guess. 'Cause he works from home
Yeah,
too,
that's
so
fine.
I guess
Tyler
I'll bring
can
him.
come.
That was I switched like I say obviously full-time writing. Like writing is not my career. It was writing this book was never a move for me to pivot to this full-time. Like I very much love my career. I've worked hard on it, and so in doing that, like during COVID, like during the beginning of COVID, I switched roles to a fully on time, fully remote role. And I've just never looked back. So even now, as like other companies are like requiring to go back, my company doesn't. And it's great. I adore it. So I do spend a lot of time on video chat, but it's the best. So I recommend it. If it's something that you're interested, I definitely recommend it.
Definitely. I, as a wedding photographer, spend a lot of time on the computer and am constantly doing like consultations over the phone and that kind of stuff. So I actually got to the point where I needed to like get out of the house because I was getting migraines like so bad that I like forced myself to find another job that is fully outside. But part of me now that we've like hit August heat is like, this is the worst idea ever. Like, why am I not just cozy in my cave editing for 12 hours? Like,
Right. Yeah. And I'm just going through a quarter life crisis. So
Fair.
She's gone through it. She was a teacher. Now she's not.
no, I'm not.
You know, education in Florida is tough.
Yeah.
Like, for a lot of
Totally.
reasons. For a lot of reasons, that's a very hard emotional role.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. I kind of just realized that, like, for my own physical and mental health, I have to, like, put a pause on it, figure something else out. So maybe I'll find a work from home job.
Yeah. I mean, she's killing at the brewery.
I love that.
I'm trying to convince her to open her own. And, like,
you should.
Here we go.
This is the
you know,
time.
they say you should have one hobby that keeps you creative, one hobby that keeps you fit, and one hobby that makes you money. And I've tried very hard now to adapt my life a little bit to fit that.
That's good. So is writing your hobby that makes you money?
By accident, like it did. Yeah, but that was not the one. I'd say that was more the keeps you creative.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Totally fair.
Good deal.
Well, that's exciting that you're working on a book too.
Yeah.
I'm
We'll
not
see.
gonna lie.
It's we'll get into the multiverse situation that was discussed. Like
Okay.
I'm kidding.
We were like,
I was like ready for it.
You're like, it is sci-fi? No, it's not. That's not the plot. But yeah, working on book 2. haven't talked much about it yet, though.
That's
Like,
Okay.
oh, thank you. I like drip, drip, sure. Like, drip out quotes or facts or like hints, I suppose, Easter eggs, um, a little bit because I think it's funny, and also to kind of like test it and see like is is there any response to this? Like, do people kind of so there are TikToks that are like not associated with my account that are kind of going around, and like so I'm watching how that works, and so it's kind of neat.
Oh,
Okay,
that's
I
cool.
can't stress how
fun.
much of this is me winging it though. Like
Isn't that
truly.
life?
Oh,
Like
100%.
I
we're
think
just winging it,
all of us,
100% all the
everyone.
time.
Yeah.
which is fine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm really excited that there's going to be a book 2 because that was one of our questions. And I did see like you had posted something on your TikTok, and I may have had like a dance party in the kitchen.
She did.
I did. So I'm excited. And I
We'll
can't wait till
see.
you kind of put more out there. We'll definitely be
Thanks.
keeping an eye out.
For sure, definitely. Do you have any pressing questions or?
Okay, let's talk about the fact that pretty much like more than halfway through the book, nobody knew if it was Josh or
I
Reed.
know.
Not
I
us being on 2
I
separate pages.
I loved watching your react to that. So that's something when I first put this book into beta, and like I did beta, like the concept of beta reading I think is more specific to like you choose like 5 people, maybe a handful of people, you have them really kind of comb through it. I didn't do that. I'm like, let's just kind of treat this more like a market test and like treat it like a beta test for something that you're running. Love it. And so I sent it to like 100 people, and that allowed me to like really survey their journey through the book. And even since then, like initially post publication originally, I did a lot of surveying of like, did you know that this was Josh? And so it's a couple things. Number one, I've been able to predict now pretty well, like if you are still, a lot of people are, I'm so happy that both of you saw the red flags. So many people don't see the red flags, and it makes me very sad because I'm like, from day one, this should have alarmed everybody, and it doesn't. And that's like a real commentary on the situation we have out in the world. But like
Yeah.
it doesn't alarm, and you're rooting for this guy, or you weren't, but so many people were. And so if you can get through to that scene where he takes care of her when she's sick, and you're still on board post Never Have I Ever, you're stuck. You're going to follow him through to the end. You're going to say this is friends to lovers, and it'll work out. Ow. So about 60% of, I'm fine. About 60% of people get to that chapter 36 moment where Reed shows up to dinner, and they are floored. They don't know who's coming. They think it's Josh. And
That's
like it's also very funny because anyone who knows me that read the book, like can pin it immediately. They're like, obviously not. Like you would never tolerate bullshit like this. Like this is just not like how this works. So yeah, it's fascinating, and it makes me very curious about like, I think you had even said that he reminds you of people you know, and not necessarily in a good way, but far too common of a person. Um, and so when people root for him, you think, or when people don't recognize the red flags, I think like, were you not burned by someone like this, or did you tolerate someone like this? And like, how are we now on the other side of that?
Yeah.
But yeah,
yeah.
people don't
Yeah.
know it's him.
I
Not everybody, at least.
Yeah, and I think maybe the people who like don't initially recognize the red flags are people who genuinely don't know what to look for in red flags. Like as like personally for me, like I don't know if you've ever picked up, but we grew up in a very like strict religious household and not necessarily like that anymore.
Yeah.
But and if you are, it's fine. But I felt like in our I'm not going to talk for you. For me,
You know me
in
enough
my
to-
in my history, like it took me a long time to learn what red flags were because of like what we went through and
Yeah.
like kind of what you're trained in what you learn from very very little of kind of what that is. So like just kind of recently within the last few years have I really worked on myself of being like, what are red flags
Yeah.
and like what to look for in that. And so I think that reading that, I guess in a moment like that is pretty cool to like able to see it right away.
Yeah.
But I'm also glad that you did notice that we saw it right away.
I
And our
loved
little
it.
red flag.
I loved the red flags. It's such an interesting thing, and I think so much of what is consumed now in media, be it like on television or even in books, you have like this concept of enemies to lovers, I think is fascinating because there are so many times I'm reading something that's labeled enemies to lovers. I'm like, no, he's a bully. Like this is
Yeah.
mean, and
Yeah.
like you shouldn't, like these things aren't always recoverable.
Right.
And so in knowing that that's kind of that so much is written for like this tropification of literature, and that's not, I don't aim to diminish that because like that has a place, it has a purpose, it fills lots of people for lots of reasons, but it can diminish like real life red flags, right? Like
Yes.
we downplay things that shouldn't be downplayed. And so like if you go back in your reread, and you'll notice the language around Josh was never kind. Like there were words like assault used in the first interaction between them. And it was always talked about being trapped or hostile or violent or like aggressive. And that was always the language used around him. And it is not until that very last scene where they're interacting that people are like, oh my God, like this is much worse than I ever thought it was. But it was always there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think with the enemies to lovers trope, there's a very fine line too. Like that is strictly bullying, like you said. And then maybe like one of the things that I've found that I really love is when I do read an enemies to lovers, because I do love that.
Yeah, same.
Is like a dual POV.
Yep.
So that we kind of see from their side of like, okay, what's really going on? Is this bullying? Is
Yeah.
this that you think you're more than this character? Or is there a whole specific reason that we're not seeing?
Yeah, it's the perspective. And like with dual POV, especially like in your book, not enemies to lovers, but just in general, like how dual POV can show so much more of just like how somebody reads something. And I think the same thing with enemies to lovers is it's like, is this person reading this situation wrong? Or like, are they actually in love with me? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, it's interesting though, because like you never read Josh's point of view. Like
Never.
he wouldn't have said that interaction was, he would have said that was love. Like his response to her at the end of it was hurt. Like he felt horrified. Like he was really upset, and he felt personally like hurt that she left him. So like, I mean, everything, like dual POV is, it's my favorite. I mean, it's my favorite. I saw you said you found someone who doesn't like it, which very interesting to me as a person. I would love to know about that, but like, just because you know that the intent isn't there doesn't diminish the impact of their action. But no, I'm actually a sucker for enemies to lovers. I would just want to be very clear. This is not me saying that in the slightest. I eat it up. I think it's more when the dynamic shifts from being we're equals and challenging each other in that way. Like we're challenging each other in regard to either achieve the same thing. Like, so more like rivals or academic rivals, not kind of like enemies to lovers, or you're set on a path where your conflict is inevitable, versus just what feels like unwarranted, like hatred.
Yeah, like this person is an asshole and some things just cannot be redeemed.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, anyway.
That's a great perspective.
That's my soapbox on the topic.
Yes, I love that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. No, that was great. I mean, we definitely saw those red flags from the beginning.
I loved it.
Yeah, but I was so blown away that I didn't catch that it was Reed, because I'm the type of person that like mystery books have to be insane plot twists, not like to absolutely get me. So the fact that I didn't catch that, I was so angry. Like after the podcast ended, and then I literally went and started reading, and then got to the point where it was Reed, and I was like, fuck. Like, I'm so mad.
It was wild because she catches everything, and when I was like, yeah, it's Reed, and she was like,
but I
saw it. You were like, what do you mean? And you're like, what do you mean? Oh, he was the greatest. He was the greatest moment. It's such. that's so validating for me. Because like when I wrote it, I thought, oh, I thought it's gonna be obvious, right? Like, and maybe that's just because for me, like, I know how this ends. So there was no
Right.
version of this that I could read and have any version
Fair
of a
enough.
surprise. But no, I love that so much. I mean, there's so many indications of everything that kind of gets seen as like a twist at the end in that 36 to the end run.
Yeah.
Like her initials, she signs her name with three initials in chapter 2, chapter 1.
Yes. Yeah, she even talks about it a little bit. Like,
Yeah, she talks about it. Like she literally says, "Here are my initials. I like to use them." And like it's 3 letters, not the 3 letters she had in college. And so people make it to the end of the book and not realizing that she somehow acquired a new last name. And they make it to the end of the book thinking, "Oh, it's going to be great. They're going to rekindle their love and everyone's going to be happy forever." But they are happy
but you're like,
forever.
hello.
Just or she's happy forever. You just, not
Yeah, just
together.
a different happy, which
There goes
for
our
one,
notes.
I for one am absolutely so obsessed with the ending. Like I said, I don't know what book 2 has in store. However, I love like not that I love a not happy ending because it is a happy ending, but I love an unexpected happy ending. Like the formula, like the meet
Yeah.
cute happily ever after, like I'm
We're
kind of
over it.
just over it. So I ate this up. I was obsessed.
I'm so glad. Even book 2, in fact, the dedication for book 2 talks about happily ever afters because I think there is so much formulation and definition around what a happily ever after is, and it's like we wait for that last page to validate if the rest of the story was worth it. And like you don't know what happens after that. Like you read these epilogues and what about 10 years into their marriage when they're actually having a fight because someone doesn't know how to change a tire? Like what about these instances very much in your lives where you are hit with the hard parts of being in a relationship or being a partner to someone, or someone loses their job or goes through depression, like all of these things, like that's not touched on in that happily ever after at the end of the book. And so for me, both in this book and the next one, so much of how they end has to do with that definition. Um, because I don't know that I believe in this classic sense of a happily ever after. I think it is always a happily for now. Like your happily ever after
Yeah.
doesn't exist at this one point in time. It is
Yeah.
all those points in time.
Yeah, I love that. I love the happily for now and working for that,
Yeah.
Like it's not just this given thing. It's something that
No,
you work for. And
constantly.
wow. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, we're
I
not
love.
like guaranteed a happily ever after, so it's not like it's not real life. So I think that's why we loved that so much. Is like loved the book so much was our perception of happily ever after is these two people end up
Yeah.
together, and it's her own happily ever that she found like the love of her life. That and you hear so often like normally quote unquote a husband wouldn't be happy with them meeting up with someone
Yeah.
like that could be a past like love, yeah, quote unquote, like obviously there's tons of
Sure.
exceptions and like that's I don't know, I just really loved that it wasn't
Thanks.
what everyone wanted.
No, don't worry. Some people have told me that. I have been told that that is not what they wanted. Like verbal,
I'm
like
sure.
no,
Which
I
you
like I said, I think it's important. I think it's an important version of a love story.
Yeah.
And I think it's a love story. I don't know. People are very, very precious about how you define a romance. And I guess
Right.
romance has to have like this tied up in a bow, they end up together notion. And I don't agree.
I don't
So
either.
It's not real life. And like you said, it doesn't invalidate any of their
no,
experiences. And that was the biggest thing we talked about last week was it doesn't invalidate their love for each other and
no,
that happened in a time and place when that was important to both of them. That was
yeah,
still very valid.
yeah,
However, it just ended in a different way than people expected, and that's okay.
yeah. I think people have this notion, and even in that, fake epilogue, the idea of them ending up together, like he has a cat and she has dogs. Like, do we even know that Reed actually wanted children? Like, you don't know any of these things, and so people just assume that their lives will run parallel courses. But like, he moved a bunch. Like, he did a bunch of things. They both did a bunch of things, and there was no way to know that the actual goals of their lives or the fundamental things is to truly, are you a dog person or a cat person? If those things lined up, we just kind of assumed that they did.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Are you a dog or are you a cat person? That's literally on our list.
I have 2 dogs.
Aww.
I have 2 dogs. They are not in here. They usually are. But yeah, one of them I got during a hurricane. I got her during Hurricane Irma. It's a
Okay.
terrible story, but it really worked out. So it was like right after Hurricane Irma, and a car pulled up like right kind of like alongside me on the street, and someone yelled out the window like, "Do you want a puppy?" And I'm like, "Huh?" And then they like chucked a puppy on the sidewalk. And so I got that dog, and she is now like, we're bonded. Like, I'm her emotional support human. So I love her. And then she's a few years old. And then we have another dog that's like 14 years old that we've had basically the entire duration of our relationship.
Aw, big dogs or small dogs?
Small dogs. Those kind that like you literally have no idea what they are. Like
Yeah,
you just
fair.
you
That's the best.
they've lived a bunch of lives before me, even though I got them both as puppies. Like I don't
They
know.
just.
We're just best.
Fair enough. I love that.
Are you a dog or are you a cat person?
I was gonna say,
I'm
are
a
you
dog person. I'm a dog person for sure. I'm a big dog person. I'm actually terrified of cats. Like, I've gotten to the point in my life, if a cat is on the other side of the room and they're like, I'm kind of okay with that. But like, if a cat gets near me, I will freak the fuck out.
I'm so fascinated by this because you said you're big into like witchy stuff, and like there's like an association between like cats and witchy things.
Fair enough. But when I was a child, I had a cat and it got out and it got in a fight with my dogs. And I was like 5 years old. And the cat like split open my head and I had to get 6 staples in my head. And at the time, I did not realize like the amount of blood that comes with head injuries. So I thought I was going to die. So since then, I'm like, I don't love cats.
Fine. Say like I wouldn't either.
Totally fair.
But yeah, completely valid. Like, all right. Again,
So
not
I
what
wish
I
I
thought was
loved
going to come
cats.
out of your mouth. Like I just.
Welcome to our podcast.
Yeah, welcome.
You never know what trauma is going to spill out of our mouth.
I'm a fan of trauma dumping, so just let me know.
So yeah, maybe I'll get there with cats eventually. Like, I used to not even want to be in the room with cats. Now if they're like over there, I'm chill. So like maybe eventually
I didn't know
I'll
a
be
cat could have
person.
that kind of impact anyway, though. Like I never associated them as like.
I
don't know.
It was, in retrospect, it was not the cat's fault. The cat was being attacked by a dog.
Sure.
I tried to save the cat. The cat was in like fight or flight and just happened to like scratch my head open. And it was not the cat's fault. However, like I did go through a lot of dish towels on the way to the emergency
No, this
room.
sounds like this is wild trauma.
I'm so sorry for anyone listening.
Get it out, girl. It's okay.
So yeah, I hope I'll like cats someday.
Or
I kinda want a
Why do you have
hairless
to like
cat.
cats? You don't have to like cats.
You
Like,
don't have to like cats.
Just
I know,
don't
but I
bother them. Like I don't know.
Kind of.
You
Yeah,
don't know
fair
them
enough.
anything. Like you.
But
That's fine.
I know. I want to like cats. I do. Like I love hairless cats. Like from afar, they're so ugly cute.
This is getting more and more bizarre for me. Honestly,
Yeah. But here's the thing. You love dogs.
Yeah.
Keep with the dogs.
Okay, fair enough.
You know I'm never going to get a cat.
I was gonna say you're allergic to everything.
I'm
but if you
allergic to
had a
the fucking
preference,
world.
what
So
would you- if you had a preference, if you weren't
Oh, a
allergic.
dog, 100%. Like, I loved cats when I was younger. We had multiple cats. We loved cats. And then it was some weird, bizarre situation. My neighbors they had kittens. And I went over to their kittens and loved on them and hugged on them. And suddenly my throat swelled up randomly. Sure. And so then ever since then, I've been very allergic. And I've always loved dogs, though. Always. As a photographer, I, like, latched on to that, like, niche photography. And 3 years ago, when I found out 4 or 5, whatever, I was allergic to dairy, found out I was allergic to dogs, too. So it was a real bummer time.
That sounds like a rough patch, man. I gotta be honest.
Allergic to the world. Just put her in a bubble. She did one of those shoots, though, that it was like the dog, like, eating the dog treat, and the mouths are like, wah,
yeah.
And it was incredible.
See,
I'll send you guys photos of my dogs after this because they are like It's really bizarre.
Yeah,
I love them
I need
so
to see
much.
this.
I love them. I still do the photo shoots. I just take Zyrtec beforehand and then Benadryl after.
Yeah.
And then we just get through it.
Sounds like a party, I
Yeah,
guess.
it's
Like,
honestly
it's fine.
should record a podcast after it.
Yes.
Anyways.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so we have a list of questions because we kept thinking like, oh, we want to ask her about that, we want to ask her about that, and then
Sure.
we're notoriously
Scatterbrained.
we don't. We'll just go on tangents. Like
We'll
we're
talk
talking
about soup for 20 minutes. It's fine.
Yeah.
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 So I wanted to ask, do you annotate your books?
Not so much anymore.
Okay.
It depends on
The
the
book.
book and how many times I've read it. So like by default I don't. Also, getting a Kindle was a game changer, and I was so arrogant around like the integrity of books. Like, whereas like as if you're not holding it, it didn't feel as legitimate. And then there was a period of time when I was traveling a lot for work, and so I got a Kindle, and it just changed the game. It was so immediately, like, the instant gratification outweighed the ego of like holding a paperback book, of holding a book.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's part of that pivoted it, but like I don't think I read in the same way anymore, where I'm like committing things back to the book, not unless it's something that's incredibly meaningful, at which point like I flag it a little differently, but I don't like just annotate. My husband is funny. He doesn't annotate, but what he'll do is he will this is the only thing he does in a book. He will underline the first sentence in the book that kind of got him to commit to the book. It's a very specific thing, and then that's it. That's the only part of it where he was like, this is the place where I feel the book became something worth me reading, and then he carries on. That's it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Okay, fair enough.
It's
I've never
something.
heard-
I love it.
No, same, me neither. It's something. It's a thing, but
That should be like written in a book or something. Like that's something that I've never heard of before. That's fascinating.
yeah, it's all right. It's fine.
Yeah.
Every
Okay,
time you'll be
I
reading a
love
book,
it.
you'll be like, why is this one thing underlined?
This is random. One day, someone in like Goodwill they're gonna find a book and just like
Yeah,
one
it's just-
single.
They're gonna be like, it's national treasure. Someone's gonna steal the Declaration of Independence. Like, you're just gonna start like down this path of like, clearly it's a clue.
Oh yeah, this
my
whole
gosh.
book is in invisible ink. Like we're
Yeah,
gonna find it.
Put it in the
But
oven.
That's
Yeah.
so funny.
Same with the Kindle. Like I got one years and years ago, and I never
Mhm.
really like used it. It was given as a gift, and
Yeah.
then it just suddenly that was back in 2012, and it doesn't work anymore. So on a deal, I got one just recently, and oh my gosh, like
It's a game changer.
amazing. I mean, I know myself. I'm gonna probably go buy the physical books anyways.
I do that
Like,
also.
You need your
It's not
trophy.
saving me money in the slightest. It's not a financial decision.
No,
The girl math is mathing. It makes sense to me.
girl math. Love girl
It
math.
doesn't-
Have you
yeah,
seen
it's fine.
that?
Yeah. Of course
Love
I've seen
girl
that. What do you mean have I seen that? That's
I
how I justify every decision in my life.
Literally. I was trying to explain to my husband girl math the other day because I was like, I want to go out to dinner. Let's go to Texas Roadhouse. I have a coupon for a free, like,
Yep.
the cactus blossom thing. And so I was like, so basically it's free.
Yeah,
And he was like, what?
100%.
I was like, girl math, Tyler, get it together.
Again,
He's an accountant.
Oh,
he is
I
an
was- I
accountant,
was
so
gonna
the
say,
girl math does not math.
that wouldn't fly. My spouse is he's on board for the girl math. He's really game for all of it. So like we're seeing Taylor Swift in Paris. I'm very excited. So
I
know.
love that for you.
That's
Thank
incredible.
you. Same. That's in May of next year. We've already booked all that stuff. By the time we go, that trip is paid for. That trip is free. It doesn't matter. We're like, upgrade the seats. By the time we get to May, it's not going to matter.
Absolutely.
Paper
Yeah.
done.
100%.
We're very excited. That was a whole process though to, like, you had to be up at like 3 a.m. to sit in queue. And so like
I
he
can
did, like he was
imagine.
like up in the morning, like sitting in queue. But gotta love the EU and like consumer regulations though. Floor seats like $180.
Wow. I want to
Why didn't we do that?
Literally. Oh my gosh. I want to go to Paris because I want to go to Paris Disneyland because they have
We're
the
going to
Marvel
Paris
campus.
Disney.
Oh
You're
my God.
amazing.
Literally.
we're
Okay,
going to
tell me
Paris
how it
Disney.
is because I
will.
went to the Marvel campus in California and I cried the entire day. I was so starstruck.
That's so sweet.
So they have the Iron Man ride
Yep.
over there. So it's like a dream of
Oh.
mine.
That's
so
so
let me know.
exciting.
I will let you know. Yeah, so
I
that's
will
our
live
trip in
vicariously
May. That's what we're
through you.
doing. So like the French
Incredible.
75 is very on brand. Like
Amazing.
So
It
your
was
free
all
trip. I love
planned.
that.
it's my
Yeah.
free trip.
The
It's
girl
totally
math
free.
is
Totally paid
mathing.
for.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah,
paid,
I love
and some of
that.
it was with points, so it really is free.
It's totally
Like
free. You're getting money
I
back at that
basically
point.
made money. And then
Literally, it's
I put things on anytime I swipe the Amex, I'm like, I get points for this.
I
So
made money.
I made
I've
money.
made money. Yeah.
I
I
see
am
no problem with this.
I am girl boss.
Yeah.
I'm an
Too close,
entrepreneur.
far too close to the sun most of the time.
Yes,
But
absolutely. That
Oh.
is so funny. Yeah,
live
so my
live
husband's
your
an
life.
accountant. The girl math does not math. However, he was like, sure, we can
Yeah.
go. I'll go wherever you want. But the math is not mathing, but I'll still go.
They're like,
He's
don't
like-
burst my bubble. It's perfect. Works fine.
Yeah, he doesn't burst the bubble. He just doesn't get the girl
That's
math. It's
so
fine.
funny. Yeah.
I'm glad your husband girl maths.
Oh yeah. He girl mathed before it was like a bit on TikTok, and we used to call it like Sam math. Genuinely, like this is like a running joke in our friend group where like any amount of money to him, like, and it's girl math. Anything under $100 is the same amount of money. Like
Yes.
Yeah,
it's the same amount of money.
Yeah.
100%.
We're like, it costs us $100 for each to step foot outside the door. If we walk outside, it's $100 a head. Easy.
Yep. My sister and I say that all the time, and it's like the whole ADHD, like dysfunctional, like executive functioning. Like I either stay at home or I inevitably spend at least $100.
Yeah.
Like there is no other option. There's
So-
no C.
You know what I used to do when I used to commute to work, when I had a job that I'd commute to, and even then sometimes when I'd sit at home, you're spending money when you're sitting at home also. You pay for your house, you pay for your electric, there's food in your fridge. All of these things cost money. You could associate value to them. It costs me the same amount of money to stay home sometimes. I have to Instacart, that's food.
Accurate.
Don't take my advice. This is terrible advice. Like
I mean, we're on the same
I love
page.
it. I mean, honestly, last night I had a coupon and food doesn't count because I have to eat to survive. So I
it
made
doesn't
money.
count. Yeah, absolutely. You
I
absolutely
made money last night. I will not take any other
You're an
answer.
entrepreneur.
And we made dinner tonight,
We
so
did.
free.
Free. Absolutely free. I have. Okay, so speaking of like annotating books
Oh,
and
sure.
books and that's
Yeah.
This is us. If you've listened to any of our episodes prior to
I have.
this, like
I'm here for
hot
it.
mess.
It's
We're
fine.
hot
I
messes for
literally,
us.
I like logged out. I'm done. This is my day. This is my night. So
Amazing. So, you had mentioned in your author's note that you have never read a book that you regret. So I have some follow-up questions.
sure.
One,
I get this a lot, but go for it.
okay, I'm sure.
one, did you read Time Traveler's Wife?
I did read Time Traveler's Wife.
Oh,
I want to be very clear about this. I said the word regret, not that I didn't like, and there's a difference.
Okay.
Like-
okay, yeah.
Totally.
So my two parts are
Yeah.
what do you mean by regret? So like
Yep.
go into that, and also like do you ever DNF books?
Okay, I wish I could DNF a book, but I will not allow I just won't. And a lot of that, I think, I have been burned by books before in that way, but I'll start with that second part first. I don't DNF books because every so often I'm like, the end will be worth it. There will be
Yeah.
something delivered at the end of the book. And I think a lot about even how people have DNF'd when we were, and the comment on it, like I'll see comments where they'll be like DNF'd at like chapter 12, and I'm like, you're so fucking close. Like you're so close. You don't know what you're DNFing yet. And like, I think when you DNF a book, you hate the book you think you're reading, not the book you've read. And so I think that you can get to, you can get to the end of it. And like, maybe it's because I read fairly quickly, which I think a lot of people do. Like, that's not a claim to anything, but like, I've spent a lot of time doing dumber things that 2 hours to read another 200 pages is not going to be the worst thing I do.
totally.
So I don't DNF books for that reason. I have very rarely been wrong though. Like there have been books I've been close to DNFing, and I, in some ways, had wished I had or had been able to, but I wasn't. And then when I say regret, I mean at the end of every book, there's some kind of takeaway. So like, I know that maybe that author isn't for me, or maybe that like style of trope, or maybe that setup of romance isn't for me. And so so that lack of regret really comes from that, like kind of recognizing either what I did or didn't like in the book. Um, there's always something that I kind of take away from it. Usually it's knowing what not to go back to. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't regret them.
Yeah.
I
That's
definitely don't
excellent.
like them, but I don't regret them.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. That's a great answer because
Thank you.
that's kind of the outlook I'm trying to take on life is like you can always learn something from everything. Even if it was a shitty experience,
Yeah.
there's still something to be learned from it. So I love that. Honestly.
Yeah, me too.
And even with the book that we talked about that we were burned by, going back to like the red flags of that book, we had so many people that recommended that book and they were like, oh my God, this is incredible. And we were reading it and we were like, red flags,
Yeah.
red flags.
You're like,
this is toxic.
grooming. Like this is
This is grooming.
You're like,
this is toxic.
This is grooming. Yeah.
Yeah, and we did have a bunch of listeners kind of mention afterwards, after listening to our podcast and stuff, being like, oh, I read this in high school and I never
Now it's pouring
here
down
comes
rain.
hurricane.
There's the hurricane.
There you go.
And I never even noticed those or saw that.
Yeah.
Or like, I mean, I don't know, it got me at the like nibbling at her toes thing when she was a little like
She was like 16,
so
he was
little.
like 35, and he was nibbling her toes. I was done.
but anyways,
I should have DNF'd it. We did not.
although we did take away that is not our type of thing.
That is not your vibe.
And
That's
Grooming
not
is not our
we
thing.
didn't like it. We lost so many listeners.
You know what? That's fine.
We paid the price. It was what it was.
So much. I think what's missing in so much of romance or in literature right now is conversation around consent in that regard. And like, so particularly if you talk about a book like The Time Traveler's Wife, or even like one of the reasons my book is structured the way it is to kind of force the recognition of that conversation.
Yes.
Because like I read a book and it was like a why choose kind of situation. And like, it was one of those books I was all over TikTok and I'm like, I'm going to do it. Like, why not? And the entire time I'm like, first of all, there's no one on birth control. What do you mean? Like, why is no one having a baby yet? Right? Like there's just no conversation on birth control. Like, and maybe it's because I come from like a time when everyone's like, you have to have that conversation or you're going to get pregnant at whatever age.
And die.
Yeah.
If
you're
you're
going to get pregnant and die. And so that was part of it. And then I'm like, then there's also no conversation. Like, part of the conversation that is associated with birth control, regardless of how unsexy it is in a situation and like a spice scene, is that it informs consent. And you just, by excluding those to dial up spice, I think you miss this really, really critical part of the conversation.
Absolutely. But honestly, when I read smut, when they ask about a condom or ask about birth control,
like,
that is the hottest thing. I'm like, 10 out of 10.
Thank you.
10 out of 10. Like, when they pause to ask that question, that is so much hotter than when they don't. Like, don't skip over that.
I think it's important. Yeah.
Totally. So agree with that. All right, let me see if I have a note. Okay, we kind of talked about this over our little messages, but in our Discord, we, number one, your readers / friends and all of that whole
corner of the internet.
This corner of the internet. Yeah.
Amazing.
Intense. The most incredible people you'll meet. So, I didn't know any of these people. Like, these were not people I knew. Like, they are newish people in my life. And so some of the people that were in that Discord, that jumped into that Discord, were people that were either in the beta read or the early read.
Oh, okay.
And so like Isabella Reeds is like, she wrote an actual college paper on this book. I've never met that girl in my life. Okay. But every so often she'll message me. She'll be like, I found this song lyric and it's the two of them. And she'll break it down. I'm like, are you okay? Like, are you okay? Like, it's been a year now for you. Like, this book happened for you a year ago. And so, but I take that, like, I joke about it a lot, but it is so humbling. And it is such like something that I could have never imagined happening. And, from there, like I kind of said at the onset of this call, is that if people DM me, I really try to always respond because, well, except someone DM me saying mean ones, I didn't respond to that. I just posted it. But like, if someone DMs me like with any kind of thought or emotion, it feels very important that they get a response from me because like they put all this time into it, into like whatever, and I think I should give something back. It sounds very like, let me give something back. It's not a charity thing. It's like they deserve that in many ways. But in doing that, like I've had people message me who then I find out are pretty local to me, and I'll just say like, do you want to meet for coffee? Like we've been chatting back and forth. Like, do you want to meet for coffee? Like we can talk books about anything else. And that's been incredible because those people turned into really good friends. And so I think those are people who even pestered you into reading this book.
I love
And
it.
so much of the reason this book has had success is because all I did was write it, and then the rest is kind of just like happened because of people who loved it. You know, it really didn't have much to do with me in the end. And I think it kind of like, I'm a firm believer that books stop belonging to the author, and, you know, like be it for good reasons or bad reasons, like the J.K. Rowling of it or whatever it may be, like it kind of becomes whatever people want it to be. So, yeah, like I've been able to kind of just enjoy this and meet a lot of really great people who have a lot of cool things to say and even connect them. Like the idea that people bonded over this is so incredible.
It's amazing. I
Amazing.
love that thought though of like how it becomes kind of the readers. That's kind
Yeah.
of how we view the Percy Jackson. He's very Rick Riordan is in my brain. It's been
Yeah.
like TikTok.
Uncle Rick.
Yeah.
Sure.
But the Harry Potter
Yeah.
like whole controversy, like we very much discussed whether or not we were going to kind of introduce that on the podcast because we don't believe with what she believes
Yeah.
and stuff, but that we've kind of like have not ownership of
Harry
the story,
Potter
but
is
like,
mine.
right?
Yeah, but it is, right? Like,
But it's impacted.
how as readers you receive material is very different from the author, and I think while there are elements of Harry Potter that are problematic, right, in the books themselves,
Correct.
some of it is also representative of the time, like just in how we were a lot more like cliche and demographic of naming or just like archetypes of characters. Like that was just the default of the early 2000s, and some of that I also try to kind of like hit the nail on the head with. And like I actually am very lucky. I have first edition Harry Potters, and I have them signed. And
Wild.
it was something very interesting because we're like, do we put these out? Like they don't feel great.
Yeah.
Like there's
Right.
a weirdness to them.
Right.
But they came from a very different time, and it doesn't diminish how much I loved the story for the reasons I love the story
Yeah.
without the
Absolutely.
association to the author.
Absolutely.
correct.
Like it still impacted my life. Like I still reread those books
Yeah.
all the time. Last year for Christmas, my husband got me the Gryffindor edition. Like he had it
I
shipped
love
in
that.
from
Yep.
Australia. Like most incredible gift.
We're Gryffindors.
I love that.
Do you know what
I think
house
I
you
told
are?
you guys like because you had named their houses, right? I
Yes.
had that in the original draft. I think even in the first print, it had their houses in it. And I had seen some discourse around J.K. Rowling, and like someone had made a comment, and I forget the user it was, but it was someone who's very vocal on the topic, who's a lot more in the community than I am and can speak for community that I cannot. And they were saying something to the effect of like, if it's not contributing to the story, why amplify the notion of this person? Like, why amplify J.K. Rowling? And
Fair
so
enough.
for me, I thought like, as much as I want to like reference Arden and Reed's houses, it doesn't benefit the story. It doesn't
Right.
need to be there. And so why would I amplify the recognition of this person
Absolutely.
who is a problem?
Totally.
And so I removed it, and I really went back and forth with it. And yeah, that was a really interesting one for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Are you familiar at all with enneagrams?
We took the test. So like we
Okay.
watched you guys
What
and we're
are you?
like, what am I? I think it said I was a 7.
Ooh, okay.
7
Very
and
good.
8. 7 and 8.
Yeah.
Okay. 7 wing 8. I'm an 8.
She's an 8.
I think it was like they were like big ones. And then my husband I think was a 4 and a 1, 4 and a something. Low?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a 2.
You're just
Wing
naming the
1.
numbers. I don't know what that means. I barely read mine.
So
I just
two-
remember like you're saying it like if I should
Fair
actually
enough.
know.
Yeah, because
You're
we
good.
gave your characters enneagrams.
did.
We don't know if they're right, but
I'm 2, so I'm the helper. I'm like someone that will go out of their way to help people and basically to make myself feel good, but also to make other people feel good.
Yeah.
And I'm a wing 1, so it means that I'm very like detail oriented. I'm the crazy one that has the Google Calendar that will have the description of what the episode will like. That's me. And then you're 8.
I'm an 8. So the 8 tends to be like the maverick, the person that's going to stand up for all the other people. Like injustice is my biggest like I don't do, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
we are both socially awkward and have very bad social anxiety. However, if she needs to ask the waiter something, I will get the like
Yeah.
I may be
Your
so
social anxiety
socially
goes away.
anxious
You're
as
like
hell,
there
but I'm
for-
like,
yeah.
I got this.
Yeah, completely.
I'm the one who will eat something with dairy in it, almost end up in the hospital because I don't want to say something to the waiter. She's the
as
type
the
of person
8,
who's
I'll be
like, clean the kitchen.
Excuse me, I need you, like, in a very kind way. I would be like, excuse me,
the
I need you
kindest.
to change your gloves and clean the whole kitchen because she's allergic to dairy.
I love it.
So I need you to figure it out.
It's the balance.
Yeah.
So an 8 is like the maverick, and they stand up for like the people around them and like don't stand for injustice.
I genuinely don't remember what the 7 was.
7s tend to be very outgoing, very like people.
Thank you. Sometimes, like
Sometimes. when
Fair
you need
enough.
to be.
Hey,
Yeah.
we can also be people and have social anxiety. Like,
oh yeah, that's the social anxiety is like a more newly accepted thing, right? Whereas
Yeah.
before they're like,
Yes.
just suck it up, you'll be fine.
right, get out there.
Yeah, like
Make the phone call.
go present in front of the class. You
Yeah.
have to do this in your life. And then
Let me
mind you,
vomit first.
there are full blown careers where you never have to speak to people.
Yeah.
And like you're
right.
literally just behind a computer. So they lied to
Yeah.
us our whole lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean we did take the test. I need to go back and like reread it, but I remember like as soon as we watched the episode, I like we need to know what this is. I could tell you like in terms of character horoscopes, like I said, so much of this book when I first started writing it, I wasn't really sure what was going to come of it. I didn't really know where it was going to land, and so I put a lot of like detail into it that was just like copy and paste. It's like I literally put my birthday in for her birthday, and so if you like, I could tell you like what her horoscope is, and I could tell you what his horoscope is, just because like I know, but Enneagram I did not know.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to know, and it's cool because it's like it's a personality building thing.
Yeah.
So like as a 2, someone who's a helper, I was able to recognize like, okay, I need to take a second to see what I need for myself. Like, and that's kind of like how you build off of. And like as an 8, there's things that she would need to know to help her grow as a person. So it's not just like this is me, this is what I am. It's more of like a helping thing.
Yeah,
Well,
and like
that's
these
one
things
of-
are triggering.
That's one of the reasons like horoscopes even don't like I don't love them is because they just feel so prescriptive.
Yeah.
Right, where they're like, here's what's gonna happen. Here's your
Yes.
get ready.
And you're like, I'm
like that's not like it feels a little bit of a victim of circumstance for me. Or like self-fulfilling prophecy more so. But Enneagram is interesting and it makes me wonder like particularly from a writing standpoint if people should go through and like fill them out as their characters and get kind of like this default to what they should be or what their kind of thought would be, right? Because like so much of it is putting yourself in their position and you have to find consistency in that. And so if you do this quiz once, you kind of have that framework of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Enneagram honestly has been really good for me, like especially in counseling. My therapist literally gave me a book about like the Enneagram breakdowns and stuff like that. And that was one thing that we had gone into when reading your book was I was talking about like the big miscommunication between Reed and Arden. And I was saying how like with the Enneagram that I believe Reed is, like one of those triggers is like kind of the public display
Yeah.
type thing,
Well,
and
he
how he
says
really
that.
shut down during that.
Yeah.
And like that's when the communication went to shit, was like he had shut down, like he was gone.
Yeah.
Like he was not having that
He
conversation
literally
anymore.
left.
And that was so triggering.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of that situation being so triggering for him. And it wasn't an immaturity thing, it was a boundary thing.
Yeah.
And like kind of delving into the characters specifically kind of helped me see like, oh yeah, like I could totally see how this miscommunication could happen, because we normally hate miscommunication.
I know.
But I'm like, this is so believable.
If
I
it
think-
makes sense, we don't hate it.
Well, that's what I was
that.
going to say, is I think people hate by default miscommunication because it's like this tool that's used to provide conflict at a point where the rest of it, so that you can deliver this happily ever after, which
Right.
is fine for a large group of people, and that works, and that's okay. That's great. But I think where people hate the miscommunication trope is that it's like you're offended by things that are not valid, like they feel very
Yeah.
invalid.
Right.
And so on the one hand, like knowing this book is a miscommunication book, you think, oh, it's got to be some big miscommunication. It's got to be some like big literal like misunderstanding, and it's not even a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just literally the smallest like language difference, which you both talk about as like the distinction of language and in their different chapters of the breakup. But like it's just a different way to kind of perceive I'm about to sneeze. That's why I'm trying to like finish the end of my sentence, and also no, I think we're fine. Anyway, so the swallowed it back down. No,
You're
but
good,
like
you're good.
again, you expect this big miscommunication that's going to deliver this gut punch of a breakup, and it's not, and it almost makes it worse because you're like, it could have been fine. You could have just opened your fucking mouths and said the same thing, and then you realize that like this is both them remembering it. This isn't even necessarily how it happened. Like you have no idea how it happened.
Totally an unreliable narrator.
She's
100%.
the biggest unreliable narrator, and you spend this whole novel not like recognizing that she's unreliable, and then you get to the end where they're sitting across from each other, and you have to believe her when she says she's happy, and you have to believe her that this ending is what she wanted. And so I think that's also very hard for people to reconcile, because you don't trust her through 90% of the book, and then at the end you have to suddenly trust that she's happy and doesn't want to be with him. It's uncomfy for a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay, speaking of theories.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Do you ever hear a theory, and I'm kind of going back to our Discord chat, and those who are listening, if this is still up and going, so if you want to go back to the Discord and read all the theories and stuff, you're welcome to. Do you ever like hear a theory and think like, damn, I never thought of it that way?
Isabella's hit them on the head. Like Isabella, well, I feel like I've just said a lot, but it's fine. Oh well. Isabella's like landed most of them in her delivery, and it's not that I think, oh, I wish I'd thought of that. It's more like I didn't think people would pick up on that. And so like so much of it was, a lot of it was intentional for myself and how I wrote it, and knowing like I don't know, like the intention of the character, or like even what the next part of this story is going to be. And so like a lot of that was built into this book that you won't necessarily recognize until you read the next one. Or maybe you will, maybe you won't. Like honestly, you could read the next one.
I will.
I sure, I hope so. But like even if you read the next one, maybe you never tie it back to this. Like maybe you never draw the parallels, but so much of this book and the next one independent of each other as well as together, are meant to be parallels, right? Relationships between Josh and Arden, between Arden and Reed, like there's so much building on that parallel. And Isabella has like combed through it aggressively. So she's got it. Like
Yeah. She's amazing.
Amazing.
She's amazing. I read through that and I was like, oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
you're incredibly intelligent. Like,
she's phenomenally intelligent. Yeah, and so she's really landed them. Like the back of the head theory, like nail on the quite literal head.
Yeah.
Wow.
So good though.
Amazing.
Yeah.
My only other really question was, there was, I think it was a sentence. Now I'm like nervous that I'm thinking of something else, but
That's fine.
I know, right?
I'll be honest, there's so much of this book that like even I'll be like, did I say that? Or
Did
am
I
I
say that?
thinking
Yeah.
like did that make the cut? So
We
you're fine.
joke all the time that we're like, we just like delete books out of our head, like
Mhm.
just to make more room.
I don't
like
regret them because I don't remember them.
that.
Fair enough.
100%.
It's like, oh, done, on to the next.
Yep.
But there was something happening, and I think it was Arden that said like, your hands are cold. Is that a Pride and Prejudice reference?
I mean, there are a few literary references in that way. So
There
yeah.
are. I picked up.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as explicitly as I think you hope it to be, but we can say yes.
Fair.
Like this could feed your former question where I'm like, yes, sometimes someone says a theory and then I'm like, oh, I wish I'd thought of that. There you go. I wish I'd thought of that more explicitly. There are more Pride and Prejudice references in terms of like Mr. Darcy, like in kind of referencing Reed as this like broody literary figure.
Well,
but
I think
that's exactly where
why
that
my
moment
train of-
happened, right? So it was him saying to her like, oh, your hands are cold. And it was this first instant where, number one, he listed things. So, like, not to jump back, but like in the emails, like when people don't know it's Reed, I'm always like, the second he starts speaking, he speaks like that in lists. Like he's listing things every time he talks to her. And so it's the first time he like lists things. He talks about like expectation and consent and like all of these things. And so I also referenced Mr. Darcy in that moment just because that's like this figure that we all worship for so long. Like we love him, even though he was also kind of like similar in that way, like a brooding kind of like problematic dude.
He was.
Yeah.
He
You know?
really
Yeah.
was. And he kind of had that like expectation of like, oh, I'm gonna profess my love, and then she's gonna. But I don't know. I still love
the fan favorite of characters, which you guys don't even talk about, which is fine. And I never expected this, but it's one of the things that I find funniest is that Ethan, who pops up for like a hot minute, is like loved because he is this unproblematic king. He's there for a good time, not a long time, like is just on board for whatever happens and is like, no problem. Here for, we're cool. We'll be friends. We'll move on.
I love that.
We didn't talk about Ethan.
Not really, but like I do love him. He's not toxic.
Not
He's
toxic
just
in the
like,
slightest.
Lets
Like,
her live her life.
Yeah, go do.
Yeah.
I did enjoy his character and her best friend that in college. What's her name?
Bella? No.
Stella.
Stella. I
know
loved
it was
her.
something.
I loved, but I don't like. Yes, we have fancy equipment, but it allows us like 30-minute increments. So a lot of times, like I don't want to edit like 3 different 30-minute. So we are like in that stance of like, this is obviously different. Thankfully, we didn't have to take a break, but or we have so much that we want to talk about and say, and like our notes are wild. I think I put a stack here just to like, our notes are crazy. Like we try to take notes, not necessarily like that's all yours, but
A lot of notes.
we take a lot of notes and
a
we
lot to talk about.
Yeah, and then once the alcohol is introduced, and then you're just like,
And then someone
We're a
starts
hot
talking about
mess.
soup and like,
Honestly, priorities.
But yeah, I did love Ethan.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
Just like a low-key fan favorite, just like sneaks in as a
He's just
winner.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I love him.
Same.
Okay. If you don't have an answer to this, that's fine. But just because it's like a very specific question,
Okay.
do you have like a top favorite book? If you don't, what is like your top favorite genre or trope?
The book I think everyone should read right now. I read it last year. On a plane. I immediately reread it when I landed. Like it was just written in a way that I hadn't expected. Emotionally, it impacted me in a way I hadn't expected, and it's very popular. So I imagine you may have even read it. It's Alone with You in the Ether by Olive Blake.
I haven't read that.
I thought that was, in terms of, I thought it was a different version of a love story. I thought it was it was the most lyrically written book I've read. I thought it was absolutely gorgeous. I thought it was like this complex love story between 2 very complicated characters. And like I related to both of them in very unique ways, not necessarily because I was similar, but you just like, it was much more in that you can relate to someone on an emotional level without having anything in similarity to them. Like my favorite book of the last few years, like maybe my top book of the last
Wow.
decade.
Wow.
Adding to the list.
I wrote it down.
Yes.
It's
I have not read it.
It's written in a very interesting way. Like there's this notion of breaking the fourth wall. Like, did you read The Outlist 6? Because it's the same author.
It's on my list. I have not.
So this is
There's
the same author. I thought this.
so
I
many
loved
books.
this. There's so many books, so little time. I thought this was better.
Okay.
But that's just. They're very different books. It's not apples to apples in any way, but this is one of my
Okay,
favorite.
sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm all for like the love story that's not your typical love story. Like my personal favorite is Song of Achilles. Have
I
you
love
ever
that.
read it?
Of course, I've read it. Yes,
I
love
have
it.
read it like 5 times. I have a serious problem.
I've read it once. I will never read it again. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But it was so heartbreaking.
So heartbreaking.
I couldn't read it again. But yet here she is. Every time I'm like, oh, what are you reading right now? She's like, oh, Song of Achilles.
That's not my I don't know. That's
her
I don't know
comfort
that
read.
I have a problem.
That's very concerning.
Yeah.
I've read, that's one. So I'm not much of like a book crier. Like I'm not much like, that's just not really. So it's very
Same.
funny. Like there's such an emotional response.
I did not.
That's fine. Cry. I'm not offended. Like there was no.
I had like.
Again, that's fine. I never wrote this and thought, oh, people are gonna sob. I didn't think that in the slightest because like I didn't cry when writing it. I didn't have like that kind of emotion when writing it. I've definitely been more emotional writing the next book, and like I have had like tears well there, which I don't know what you want to do with that, but that's true. But Song of Achilles is one of the books that like has actually given me that like swell of yeah.
I cry every time, and I've read it 5 times. It's a
Yeah.
problem. When I was finishing When We Were, I read One True Loves.
Mm-hmm.
Have you read that?
Yes, I have. I love that
It
book.
was also a very, like, not your typical happily ever after.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting to read
I was gonna say-
alongside of the end of this book.
I imagine it was. Do you like Taylor Jenkins? Do you read a lot of Taylor Jenkins Reid in general? Like, have you read
I've
Seven
read
Husbands?
a few.
Have you read like
I've read
the,
a few.
the big ones?
Daisy Jones and the Six?
Oh, sure, Daisy Jones or Seven Husbands.
I've read that one.
Yeah.
That's it.
I
She's
thought I thought Seven Husbands was also really beautiful and also worth a read. If you
I
have,
agree.
yeah, if you
I
haven't read
kind of
that,
forgot that was her.
Literally, until you just said that, totally, I love that book.
I love that book,
so you
but I
have
totally
read that
forgot
book.
that was
okay,
her.
You're like, I don't know.
I feel
think
like that
it's
book is very different writing than the other books of hers that I've read. So I kind of like set that in its own category.
Oh yeah,
I love that book.
that's a beautiful book. Because what's the other one? Like
was-
her earlier books were very different, I think, than like some of the later ones. Yeah,
I can't believe I forgot that
blocked it
was
out.
her. But I love that book.
Yeah,
I
me
just
too.
back to like deleting things out of your brain, like your memory.
I think it's just a very different style of writing. Like
Yeah.
that like journalist style that book was incredible. Just very different from a lot of her like quote unquote romance novels.
Yeah, and I love like literary narrative, like literary journalism. Like I love that. That's my minor is in journalism, and so we had an entire degree or the champagne. It's getting to my brain.
That's fine.
The an entire class devoted to books just like that. Or not like that, but like in terms of like how it's written, as if like a journalist went in and were to write a book based off of that. And I love shit like that.
Kind of like Daisy Jones and the Six. So when she was reading that book, we were on the way to Iceland.
Yeah.
And we were
Quick story.
in the airport.
Let's talk
like
about
hot
that.
mess of a Canada airport. She's like reading this book like, Jessica, you literally have to read this.
It was like, I don't even know, insane hours in the morning or something. And I was just sitting there like, but yeah, that was wild.
That was amazing. I like these. Did you watch the show?
Yeah.
Yes.
I appreciated the disappointment in your voice. I think as long as you completely disassociate them, they're both great.
I struggle with that.
That's what I ended up doing.
Yeah.
And I love them separately. I love Sam Claflin. Like I love
They
them
were great.
all.
Yeah.
and I think they did good, but I definitely had to just like, I think by episode 3, I was like, all right, divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Because I love them both separately.
I did.
Same
I'm
thing.
terrible in the sense that, like, if I know something's coming out and my husband hasn't read it, I'm like, you have to read this now. You have to do this now. So, like, with Red, White, and Royal Blue, I'm like, now, like, it's coming out this week. I'm watching it this week. You got to do it. And so, like, he's very agreeable, which is really nice. But so I did that, and he finished Daisy Jones and the Six the day it came out. So we started watching it as he had, like, finished the book. That was a miserable experience for him. That was terrible. I do not recommend. The entire time he was like, this isn't right. This isn't right. This isn't right. And I'm like, I read it like a year ago. So I'm like, this is fine for me. I'm like enjoying it, but I've totally ruined it for him.
Aww, that stinks. I still have yet to watch the show Red, White, and Royal Blue because I haven't read it yet. So I'm putting it off. But our friend Trey, who does a lot of like the behind the scenes for us, we jokingly call him the unpaid intern. But he told me I need to just watch the show first.
Yes, it's because they are different.
Yeah.
I always get extremely upset about adaptations.
She does.
I take them to heart. Like, I know I need to separate them. It's really hard for me.
We ended up watching like the first 2 episodes of Shadow and Bone, and then like we watched them separately.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying. So same thing with Red, White, and Royal Blue. I think I need to watch it first and then read it, because I think I'll be like impressed by the book instead of disappointed by the show.
Yeah, I can see that.
Same thing with, I think they're doing an adaptation of Seven Husbands.
Yes.
And they changed it from like a mini series to a movie. And like, how didn't they?
I don't know.
Whatever they switched up.
Did you watch One True Love?
No.
I haven't seen it either, but you know.
Okay.
Or like but that's another one. But like they also did The Summer I Turned Pretty. Like I think a lot about it, and I've posed this question like on Instagram before, as to like who people visualize even for characters from when we were, and like, because
we wanted to ask you that. We debated back and forth whether we were going to ask you like what actors would you
fan cast,
but we decided not to. But if you want to, you can go ahead.
Oh, I have no idea. I don't have an answer. I appreciate that you think I might. I'm very curious who you think. I think so much of it, particularly with the men, you really define that, regardless of how they're described, you define that based on your own interest, right? So like even though there are descriptors for all of these people, and they're not aggressively like in your face, like they are, so that you can kind of wash them away just enough so that like if you need a visual, you've got it, and if not, ignore it entirely. But so when people submitted like references or recommendations for who it is, the big one for Reed was what was his name? Greg Sulkin. So he was something from like Disney or something. And I've got to look him up now. He's actually adorable. Yeah. And then he has a very like attractive girlfriend. And I'm like, oh, this is actually the two of them. It's very cute.
Greg Sulkin.
Hang on. There's like a picture of them and like they're reading and like they have a cat. And I'm like, oh, this actually might be them.
Oh.
It's Suil.
Oh. Adorable.
Oh, he's cute.
So I had no idea. I had no idea who this person is.
Yes.
What is he in?
Wizards of Waverly Place.
Oh, okay.
I think this is like my age showing a little bit. I have never, like, that was not in my like area. But so him and his girlfriend, if you look them up, they're very like cute. And so
oh yeah.
Oh yeah, she's a cute blonde.
And so like people are like, this could be the two of them.
Okay.
Not me picturing Timothée Chalamet as Josh.
That's really funny. Are you on the Timothée Chalamet hate train? Or is that just like who you've assigned here? Because
I just honestly thought of it. Like, I haven't really thought of anyone.
That's such a weird association. Like, I'm actually shocked by that.
Lady Bird? I don't know if that was maybe like that, like kind of. I don't know. That's just Timothée Chalamet's Josh. Okay. In my brain all of a sudden.
Who was the guy from Top Gun? Because people said him for Josh. Obviously not Tom Cruise, but like the
No, I love him.
I'm not saying this. This is
I know.
the world, the internet, the 100 and something people that respond to things.
I feel like I could see him as Reed.
That's fine. I don't know.
Interesting. Do
I
you know who
mean,
she's talking about?
Yes.
Oh wait, which one? Because there's two. The other like asshole of the show could totally play.
Fair enough. However, yes, Josh is an asshole, but I feel like he's got to be hot.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Well, it's talked about, right? Like,
Yeah,
particularly
like,
someone like
super
that,
hot.
like they're driven by ego and vanity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Totally.
know. We'll see when the adaptation is made. I'll let you guys know.
Okay.
I very
We'll
much
be there.
I very much like the idea though, particularly for Arden, for it to be someone who is like truly unknown, right? Like this
Yeah.
isn't a known story. I'm not anybody. Like this should be someone equally unknown in this opportunity. I say it like it's a thing. We're just gonna manifest it.
Absolutely.
We
We're
love
putting
that.
it out there in the world.
We're gonna put it out there in the world.
But I will say I love when wow, words are gone today.
You don't need them.
And don't need them. They're hard. I love when they cast people that you don't know.
Yeah.
Because it just kind of gives you that like clean slate. I do love that. But I also don't think you give yourself enough credit of how good of an author you are. Like I know that you are mostly a reader. You've said that, and you're like an accidental author.
Yeah.
But you really are incredible. Like
thank you. Well, I wrote the book. Like
I know.
Like
you did the thing.
I did it.
You did the thing.
Yeah, I think the whole author notion is very funny. Like, if you want to write a book and you'll be an author. That's kind of how I feel about it. Like, the only difference between the two of us is that I published a book.
I mean, I haven't even written words on.
Well, they're hard. They're very hard today. So maybe tomorrow.
They're kind of hard every day. So
maybe
words are just hard.
Well, you guys were talking. It was actually like my favorite thing is you guys were talking about learning new words, right? Like you're talking about like how you learn new words and how like you want to make sure that you like challenge each other to use bigger words or like the Gilmore Girls references and all of it. And one of my favorite things in the world, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's like when someone pronounces a word wrong, I like get this huge bit of joy from it because they didn't hear it. Like they didn't hear it from language. And it's my favorite thing in the world.
Me always.
Yes. I have quoted that in the past.
Yeah.
Like I saw the quote and it like gave me chills. It was like if somebody mispronounces something, it means they learned it by reading.
I know. It's the most special thing to me. So
it's absolutely incredible. Do you want to know the word of the day, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Sorry. The word of the day is audacious, and it means relating to or given to eating. So such as her priority was planning the audacious elements of the party. So it's an adjective relating to eating.
I did not know that one.
I didn't either.
So now we know a new word, audacious.
Now you have to work it into a sentence.
I mean, it's related to food, so that's not going to be too hard for
me.
Yeah.
We'll just go back to soup.
Yeah, we said it already. Oh, man. All right. I don't know. Do you have any questions for us, like in our thoughts and theories or anything like that?
I mean, I love the theories. So, like, any theory, like, if you want to talk about them, I love them. I do think your theory was definitely a little off its rocker, but I love it so much. I think what I'll say on that topic, though, is the notion of familiarity is sometimes just, like, your default feeling sometimes when you think you found someone that you love, or, like, when that feeling starts to build is, like, so much of that is comfort and familiarity. So I'd imagine that's more where that comes from rather than just, like, in another universe, they're happily like petting a cat or something like.
Hey, you never know.
A cat and a dog. It's
a
fine.
cat and a dog. You know, who
Fair
knows?
Enough.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take any theories. Do you have theories about what the next book is? Isabella does. She has all the theories.
I'm not surprised. I love that for her.
I need to know her theories.
We were kind of talking about this while I was making dinner. Was just like what we wanted to see from the book, like whether or not it was kind of like rewind back to what other perspectives we're getting from college, or are we picking up from where they left off, like after dinner, or like that kind of thing. And I don't know if I particularly have a certain one that I want to go with. Like I don't know. I liked that we went into this book with zero expectations, zero ideas.
Yeah, loved it.
We just had gotten so many people like recommending it. Like, I don't know if you scroll back from our TikTok, some of our videos, the comments are like literally only here for when we were like
Yeah, they're like, read this book and we'll stick around. I'm like, what is this?
So
Yeah,
I
it's a
kind
very
of like
specific part of the internet. People are very like, it's very culty, and I think what happened particularly with this book is that like, because not at this point, not a lot of people, but like many people have read it, right? In the scheme of things, many people. So you can find other people who you can talk to about it. But initially, they had no one. They were in this alone. So they got to the end of this book, were like had this experience and had no one to talk to, and so they formed a Discord on their own, and they were like, let's have this like emotional support group because we don't know who to talk to, and like, so I think
they
that
invited us.
did they. So I think that's like so much of why this happened is like they get really not even defensive, but like they're really big like advocates for the book because they want to talk about it. Like they want to you know. So yeah, that's why they bullied you
love
into
that.
reading it. I'm glad you had no
Well,
expectation though. It's much worse going in with a high one.
Yeah, that's true. So I kind of want
Fair
to
enough.
almost go in with like, I don't want to guess.
That's fine.
Fair
But
enough.
you had an idea.
I've not said anything, so like
You
it's all
haven't.
right. I
That's
know.
fair. I really want more of Reed's brain, but honestly, I'll read anything you put out there.
Thanks.
I just like, I don't know. Like we talked about, we read a book and then it's out of our mind to make room for other books, but it's been a few weeks honestly since we finished reading this. And I literally am still thinking about it. So
That's
like,
so special.
in the best way, I think this put me into a reading slump just because I'm like, okay, I need to reread this and think more about this in particular, but it's the good kind of reading slump.
Thanks. I'll be very curious your thoughts on the reread. Like and kind of like all those things that you pick up on early. Like like I said, there's a lot of parallel. I can certainly point you to some of them if you'd like the tip off, or if you'd like to just kind of know, if you want to go in like without kind of that guidance, you can. Or message Isabella. That girl will be your Sherpa through this experience. Because she's probably read it more than anybody I know. Uh, I'll say
love
this is that, or no, I can't say that, can I? Damn it. I maybe I'll say it off this.
Okay, that's
Fair
fine.
enough.
Yeah,
Maybe
we'll end this recording, but then we can still keep talking.
we don't have. That's fine. Whatever you want. I'm just thinking about like what I've
Put a
said and
pin
what I've
in
not
it.
said. Yeah, that's all right.
My last question that I have that might relate to the audience specifically is you as describing yourself as the accidental author. For people out there that are trying to be authors that want to write a book, like what advice do you have for them?
Yeah. Well, first of all, feel free to reach out. Like if there's anything I can do, like if you have a very specific question, I'm happy to answer it however I can. Um, I think you need people around you who will help motivate you to get it done when you feel doubt about that. And I think you have to treat it like a habit. So I get the question a lot of like, how long did it take to write this book? And writing the book is not the hard part. It's actually publishing and editing the book that's the hard part. Like I wrote this book, I think it was like 8 to 10 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks. Like it was not that hard, just a couple hours a day. I keep saying it's not that hard. Getting to a shitty first draft is not that hard. So like if you treat it like a habit, like you do anything, like you want to go to the gym and build muscle, if you want to learn a skill or learn a language, you do a lingo every day, you treat it like that and just kind of have this sense of commitment to it. And at the end of a certain amount of time, eventually you cross that threshold and have a product. And so that's kind of my big piece of advice. And then step away, finish it and walk away and don't read it until like you've given yourself a breather, and then go back and you'll really have an aggressive time editing. And that's where all the self-doubt and all of the like imposter syndrome of it will come through, and you'll be like, what is the point of this? And like you write the book for yourself, you'll publish it for everybody else in the end probably, but find people around who will help you do that and help you like really motivate you to do that. And if there's any way I can support that process, let me know.
That's so nice.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, I love that. I'm good on questions, and if you didn't really have any for us, then wow.
All right.
All right.
Oh, what's your favorite animal?
No, I don't want to, because so here's the problem. A few years ago said I liked sloths, right? And then literally since then, all I've gotten are like sloth things. And
Okay,
like,
we don't need to say it.
no, but it's fine. I'm just saying, so like that was a thing that happened. And then on another podcast, we were talking about something, and like I was saying that my husband and I play this game where in order to settle fights, and I messaged you guys, like we just start like kind of playing categories a little bit where you're like, just name as many penguins as you can. And so then they're like, well, how many penguins can you name? And I named a bunch of penguins. And so this is a weird bit for me to commit to, is like, what's my favorite animal? And then I saw someone comment and be like, ask her about koalas. No. So like there's the animal facts are weird. I come off real weird once I get into them. Like, I don't.
I mean, like, we are the strangest.
We're
so
weird. So
I love them.
Like calls to like.
I don't know that I even have a favorite.
it's okay. I
That's
don't have
okay.
a favorite.
You know what? How about you tell them your favorite alcohol? So if they want to send you something, they send you free booze.
I mean, okay. I am,
Look at this big brain
you're
energy here.
so good. This way I'm not getting any more like sloth. I truly have like 4 sloth stuffed animals in the last few years. I know. I'll show you later. I enjoy, as I said we were messaging about it. My default drink, like if I go to a bar saying I order a vodka martini, so like I like keeping vodka. I keep vodka in the house and I keep champagne in the house. Those are like the 2 alcohols. So those are really like a good Tito's is nice. But you don't need to send me just send me a nice little note. Something.
Who it is.
Send me your
with the
send me
bottle of
your
vodka.
favorite animal fact. How about that? Like, give me more content. Give me
Fair. Totally fair. I do love vodka. I do love gin. What's yours?
Whiskey. I am
I know
a
you're a
whiskey
whiskey
girl.
I saw you guys were whiskey girls.
We
But
were
it's-
not always.
We built up to
It was
that
acquired.
since like episode 1. Like we maybe like episode 4 or 5. I don't know. But we were like, we want to be those girls that walk up to the bar and are like, whiskey.
It's a cool move. It's a cool move.
I
a
feel
stunner
pretty
move.
cool. Honestly, I ordered a New York sour the other day at a bar, and I'll take a.
She's so much more brave than I. Because
I love that.
I got to go to this. It's called the Cave. It's in the Mount Washington Resort in New Hampshire.
Sure.
And it's very cool. The bartender is supposed to be like the best of the best. And I was like, I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna ask for a New York sour. I'm just gonna look so cool. And I walk up and I say, gin and tonic. That's
Your
what I
body,
want.
you know, you enjoy it. I bet it was delicious.
It was great.
Good.
It was.
I like a sour beer. Like I'll do a sour beer. I enjoy a sour beer.
Oh, girl, I love a good sour
Yeah,
beer.
I like a sour beer.
I love that. Not everyone does. My husband thinks they taste like vomit.
No, I love them so much.
No,
it feels like Sour Patch Kids. Like it's like a sour,
Oh my God,
it's like a
yes.
candy.
My brewery just made a watermelon sour that's so good. It's like a Jolly Rancher watermelon
I'm like,
sour.
that sounds great. That sounds amazing.
What's the blue one you guys made?
We made a blue raspberry sour.
I did like that.
That
We're
sounds
calling
incredible.
it the Happy Farmer series. So we had blue raspberry, now we're on watermelon, and then we have the 2 other flavors of quote unquote Happy Farmer,
Okay.
parallel for a rancher that is jolly, but trademark.
I love it. Look at that. So clever. You can work around trademarks, no problem.
You can. That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
So,
Anyways.
send her the alcohol. Send us the alcohol. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on and answering all our insane
Anytime.
questions. And
Absolutely.
actually, these were narrowed down. Like we had some, I don't know, like off the wall questions that we were thinking.
What do you
I don't even
mean?
know now.
I want to know an off the wall question though.
It was just random. Like we talked about food. That was gonna be like, what was your favorite food?
Okay.
Favorite color? We didn't talk about. But
I mean, I'm an adult. Do people have favorite colors once you cross into your 30s? Like, is that still a thing?
green.
Is green?
Dark green.
You can actually answer that question honestly. Like, someone says, "What's your favorite color?" and you haven't answered that question.
Yes.
Oh no, I don't. No,
But
I
for
could not.
me-
I genuinely could not give you an answer. I'd be.
That's okay.
fair.
No, I love this. I love this. I love this like lightning round of nonsense. But That's so
Right.
funny.
For me, it's because I took that, like, what color is good for your skin tone
Maybe
and, like,
that's
what.
why I
Yeah,
like
but
dark
like,
green.
is that your
Green?
favorite? Does it bring you joy? Like, do you
I
love
have
it?
now-
Do you see it and just think like that's my favorite color to exist in the world? Like,
I think for me, I love plants. I have a weird amount of knowledge about plants and landscaping and all of that stuff. So if you have a plant question, come ask me. But I think that's one of the reasons why I love dark green so much, or green in general, because it does associate something
Yeah.
that's like happy in my brain. So I do think that's why I like dark green. Or green in general, I guess.
I agree. Like, it definitely is my color to wear.
literally.
Like, if
I love
I'm
it.
in green, my eyes will pop. Like, it's my color. But then, like, if you put me in a forest, I am my most happy.
Yeah.
Therefore, like, surrounded by green. It makes sense in my brain.
that's great. I'm just thinking like, if I don't know that I have a favorite color.
That's okay.
Yeah, I
What
don't
other questions did we? I think we're like, do you like pickles? Do you like
Oh,
what?
do you like
We're
pickles?
pickle
so
girls.
much. How are you a pickle girl but you hate an olive?
Okay.
I don't know. I just don't like them.
I love
That sounds-
olives.
I love them.
I love olives, and I will eat olives straight up out of the jar. But when I had that very dirty, defiled martini, my gin tasted like olive, and my olive tasted like gin, and it was throwing me off.
So I don't do a gin martini. I do a vodka
She does
martini.
vodka.
Oh, right. You do vodka.
I do a vodka martini, and it's basically brine, and then like a bunch of olives, and I do it over like I keep I like ice in the glass. I think it just like keeps it cold really well, and it keeps like crisp and briny, and I think it's delicious. Um, so I don't know, but I'm not like a huge like gin martini person in general. So I probably wouldn't have loved that, but pickles.
That's fair.
Pickles. Do you guys like? Do you do like picklebacks like with whiskey and pickle juice?
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, like
Oh
that's
my God, yes. But
I still have yet to do that.
oh my gosh,
remember
I have
like
to give you a pickleback shot.
3 seasons ago we were
Yes.
like we're gonna do that. But I will say I had a pickle sour. Like it was a
Like a sour beer.
So good.
yeah. I could
I-
definitely get into that.
Big fan. Big fan.
Anything that's like in vinegar or fermented or anything like that, like, I'm in for
Oh,
it.
kimchi?
Kimchi. Oh yeah. I mean kimchi, sauerkraut. COVID was weird for so many reasons, but like I feel like there were so many habits that like in that first year we all just kind of like picked up and then we just never went back. And so for some reason every day in the middle of the day, I'd like open my fridge, eat a forkful of sauerkraut and then just like go about my day like no big deal.
Okay.
And now that has like stuck where like this is like I just have like a 2 p.m. forkful of sauerkraut now. And so yeah, so
Amazing.
I'm a big fan of all things
I see no issue.
fermented.
Ah,
Well, it's time to go. My AirPods are dying. That is telling me that it is
Oh.
time.
Okay,
Oh, man.
no worries,
Fair
no
enough,
worries.
Fair enough.
But thank you for joining us and
Anytime.
Like, subscribe, comment, all of the things.
Yes, people, come listen to Dianna, Elliot Graham, and all the wonderful things about when we were.
Bye. Stay tuned.